Great. Well, thank you so much for taking a minute to chat with us.
Sure.
We have been reading your website and poring over your articles that you've written, and just found a lot of awesome stuff, and it's been tremendously encouraging. So we just wanted to see if we could get a chance to talk to you. When I say we, I mean the three guys. It's just me today, but they certainly have benefited a bunch from your instruction, and wanted me to tell you hello and thanks.
Yeah, well, that's nice of you guys to say. I'm glad you're getting some benefit out of it. That's what it's there for. That's a nice word. Thank you.
You know, it's so remarkably different from most of the instruction that's out there, golf magazines and the like. We'll talk hopefully a little bit more about that in a second. But I put in the questions I sent to you that my mom's family is from Bellevue. My grandfather worked for Boeing for a long time. My aunts worked for Boeing for a long time. And so I'm familiar with Bellevue. I don't know your club that you teach at, but I saw your bio, but can you just tell me just a little bit more about your journey and how you ended up in Bellevue working that way?
Sure, yeah. When I first started working, I did the Jimmy Ballard, Colbert Golf Schools.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I was the first head professional at Interbay Golf, and it's an 80 stall driving range with a short fours and a little short game area, and we did all the Jimmy schools out of there. And I spent a couple winters in Palm Desert before I became the director of instruction at the Ocean Reef Club. And obviously Jimmy lives there, and so he's allowed to teach right out of that club.
Right.
No restrictions. It's nice. And I got to work with him every day for about 7 years, which was a treat.
No kidding. I mean, I know some...
Yeah, and... what's that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just know some people have said that they've struggled working with Jimmy at times, but I know that that's really encouraging to hear that you had a good working relationship with him over those years.
Yeah, it's Jimmy... Yeah, things can sour. But, it's just the way it is.
Sure. No, it's really encouraging to me because, when I spoke with him, he was so kind. And, Colbert speaks really highly of him. I wouldn't necessarily say that it was always, a simple or easy conversation learning from Colbert, just because he doesn't talk a lot. He doesn't he doesn't take a long time to explain himself. He kind of is like, this is just kind of what it is. And, Ballard said that to me a little bit about Sam Bird, that he didn't speak a lot in terms of trying to over-explain himself. There's some stuff he just sort of expected you to get, but kind of if you could hang in there, you could learn something.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy is the first to say it took him 5 years when he was a kid. I think he said he was about 17 when he first started. I'm not exactly sure the age when he first started working for Sam.
Yeah.
But it took him 5 years of working with him every day to where he felt comfortable that he had Sam Bird's eye.
Yeah.
He knew this and could never lose it.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Rick Richardson, a really good friend of mine. He's still Jimmy's instructor in Fort Lauderdale, and it was the same with him, and it's the same with me. I got it about 3 or 4 years working with him every day. I felt that I had Sam Bird's eye, and I knew what to look for and how to explain it and all that. So, that's why I think that the Colbert Ballard schools didn't see success to this day. They kind of went by the wayside because it grew so fast, and they would just quickly train these guys and then have you put in a video with the students just watching a video of Jimmy. And you just can't get, these instructors didn't have his eye. They couldn't explain it. They didn't know what to look for in the swing, and that was just a shame because it's such great information,
Well, yeah, maybe that leads me to my next question, which is, Jimmy will say that the state of golf instruction is nothing but a state of confusion, and to me, it seems like whether it's like I said earlier, the golf magazines or just the schools of thought that directly contradict each other. It seems like it's very easy for people to try to grab bits and pieces, and as you've pointed out, Jimmy says all the time, there's almost nothing more dangerous than that.
Yeah, it's definitely a state of confusion. I think the biggest thing that instructors don't get is the change of direction. Most instructors can get you set up okay, and they talk about the alignment and that type of thing, and they get you back. They know that the toe should be in the air halfway back and the club should be on plane. But that change of direction is just where it all falls apart, because the instructors, they'll pick out little things that happen at 100 miles an hour and tell you, well, there's the key. You got to tuck that right arm in. You got to retain that angle and things like this. And it's not what Hogan was telling you to do. you know, and it's not what Jimmy is telling you to do, and not what Sam said to do. You know, and then feels really fool you. I think you've probably found that out. What you think you're doing and what you're really doing is always different.
No kidding. I mean, the feel of what you feel like is so rarely what you're actually doing, which, well, there's kind of two questions I had about that. One was, that you had that post about what Hogan was trying to tell you, which I thought was awesome. And, it seems like Hogan is so misunderstood. People read his book and they don't get anything out of it like what you all teach. And, knowing that it was Sam Bird that was teaching Hogan in the first place, it seems like Hogan was probably too arrogant to admit that in certain ways. But, it seems like people teach all the wrong stuff. They get Hogan's stuff backwards because they don't understand, like you said, what Bird was saying. But it seems like in terms of change of direction, at least when I work with folks, and I haven't had, I can't even say I teach compared to what you guys have done, but working with some friends on the stuff Colbert taught me, it feels like I see two things. One is that, like you said, the angle is so huge on people trying to hold what they think is lag, or they get the club out of center so fast that even if they change directions, they seem to have the club behind them all the time. Or then, as Jimmy says, the more you try to drop it inside, the more you hit outside and across, which is something that most people can't fathom,
Yeah, they think, what are you talking about? That's wrong. No.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. They've been taught forever that that's inside out, and it isn't. It's outside and across the line of play, just trying the simple physics of it. But I think, in Hogan's book, like Lesson 2, page 41, the setup. I mean, if you can get set up correctly, and that's where you got to start. And then what is it, page 97, throwing the ball. Is so important. And then just page 102, the half left arm, where he shows you the half left arm.
Right.
And those really are the keys that he learned from Sam. And one part in the book that really is huge that a lot of people kind of skim over, don't really, let's see, let me read it to you. It's just phenomenal.
Sure.
Let's see. It's on page 50 there, Wade.
This is page 50 from the 5 Fundamentals, right?
Yeah. Okay, as your arms become schooled, you'll get the feeling that the arms and the club form one firm unit, sort of as if the two arms were equal sides of the triangle. Here's the key, with the club emerging like the spear of a steeple at the peak point where the arms join.
Mm-hmm.
So what he was saying there was that it's like this, right out of your hands, that club is a steeple. It comes straight out of your hands and stays like that.
It's out of center, right? That's sort of the whole center idea.
Yeah, that's exactly. And as you change directions, you want the feeling like you're going to work with Leonard Thompson, and he felt like when he changed directions, he would snap the club right off the head of the shaft. He was so aggressive back to the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And Tiger in the year 2000, he said he felt like he was getting his right arm straight as soon as possible.
Yeah.
To change direction.
Yeah.
And then Hogan told you to throw a ball. Well, those are three different feels telling you the same thing. You got to keep pressure in the shaft when you change directions. You can't let it drop behind you or retain angles or this or that. And that's where the big confusion comes from, that change direction.
Well, and it seems like, too, this is something I know I struggle with and some of my students struggle with, is that they hear that, and so what they do is their right shoulder, instead of throwing down, their right shoulder goes out away from them, towards the ball, so to speak. And so they'll hit out and across it that way because they've heard this idea that they can hit with their right side, but they don't realize that you can't push your right shoulder, your right arm out away from you. It's got to throw down.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people that I know who've criticized Ballard's swing will try it a little bit incorrectly, where the club, gets to the top and it can be in a great position, but then they push out and away from them with their right hand rather than throwing down, and which is totally opposite than tucking your right elbow. But at the same time, they don't understand that you can't also, throw the club out away from you or it never gets back on plane.
Right. Yeah.
So do you feel like that's one of the main things? I mean, Jimmy's saying it all the time that, your left arm feels like it works side to side and your right arm and shoulder feel like it works up and down. Is that how you try to help people with that idea?
Yeah, I can help them with that, or I think a good way to get it across is how the right side works. And I'll just have people hit little 7 or 8 irons off the real short tee with their right arm only. Put the left behind the back and just hit a couple little soft shots. And that really gives them an idea of how to do it, because you can't do it wrong.
Yeah, right.
It's a natural move with the right arm on there only. And the balance is huge, and you're just going to have your balance. In fact, I don't know, have you ever read The Natural Golf Swing by George Knudson?
No, I've heard about it, but I've never read it.